start my timer.
All right. Hello, everybody. I wanted to take the opportunity of this talk to present what my business does, what of the growing pain we have. Small talk is wonderful, but we learn a lot, and where we are going in the future. And my talk is going to be centered around an application we started 2 years ago around compliance certification. In the US, when the law passes, when the Congress passes a law, the law itself doesn't do anything. It is implemented in regulations, directives, standards. We found a business niche in the life cycle of these regulatory documents. We have 3 products. One covers the draft time, the draft life of the regulatory documents. We have another product that publishes these documents to a specialized public. And we have a new product measuring the compliance against these regulations. These 3 websites are sites we host, are just examples of what we do. So I have 4 minutes left. Regulations is a hot topic. If you read James Alderson's blog, you know that he doesn't like that. He's not the only one. There's a lot of regulations created out there. There's an issue on The Economist about a month ago, I think it was a month ago, and they had 2 paragraphs about our application. They didn't mention us, unfortunately. This would have been great PR, but it's a very hot topic. So, this product I'm talking about today is the implementation of a new law where manufacturers from outside the States have to comply to some energy efficiency standards. The exit sign is one of these control appliances I didn't know before starting this project. What do we do? We rely a lot on metadata. The manufacturers worldwide are filling templates, they send us their data. We have about 10,000 new models a week. We do have validation in Excel, we have a metadata system in Excel, and we generate reports. The core product is Gemstone. Gemstone is really orchestrating all the flow of these different Excel spreadsheets. I don't know if you see it here, and everything is versioned. This metadata file, we are already released number 23 in 1 year, and we have to keep a history of everything. So, what were the challenges for us? When we went metadata, I really went back and forth, should I just code it in Smalltalk, or should I go meta? Well, I do not regret this choice because 2 days before going live, things were still changing. But luckily we have all the system in place. But changing, the metadata file is 5,000 lines long at this point, defining 88 templates for appliances. And there's no problem, in just 3 minutes, the entire system was reconfigured with the metadata version update. It allowed us to survive 2 big aggressive takeover. 2 classic IT companies wanted to play in this field. Over SuccessFactors, we use Scrum, we did a weekly release cycle. We absolutely grew away the competition. They wanted to understand the project. We handed them some documents. By the time they read the documents, it took them a month. We were already 4 versions passed, so this was awesome. In terms of design, what really helped also, the system became complex, and I couldn't put my arms around it. So one step back, I have no clue, and I just did 1 step up to level 1. Maybe it's sound design, but it just made the system much easier to understand. It's not efficient, but it works. also used and abused defensive programming. I have 40 seconds. Well, with
I mentioned to a few people that I tend to spend most of my time in seaside work lately, and I've tried a few things to make it work on mobile. So I tried to pull up an example that will look okay. This is our in-house issue tracking system written in Seaside. It's just an XML-based file thing. Works okay. Something I wrote a few years ago. So one of the things we wanted to do was give a view of issues to our clients. So the same image has this idea of an issue portal, and I did a simplified view, which is switched on this resolution. But rather than do the more complex navigation with all the filters, it just has a tab interface. So when we were looking at doing a tablet or a mobile device, I didn't want to use a notebook. I wanted some other kind of interaction. So these are, normal table with a little highlight as you move your mouse over, which you obviously can't do with the mobile. And if you click on a particular entry, you get this kind of view. You can go back and forth and so on. So it's a simplified kind of navigation of that. So this will be what a user would see if they logged in from a desktop. And if they went from a mobile, their login would look a little different. So 100% with kind of navigation. And let me do it again. So rather than doing a notebook, we do a bunch of buttons where each button would represent the tab of the notebook. And I can reference a mobile issue version of this from the desktop, but by default it gives me the horizontal orientation. And I use some CSS to hide and show two different divs, a narrow version and a wide version. So if you were to turn this vertically, the buttons would just line up in one vertical column. Right? And that's it's a little thing, but it gets some good play. And then selecting a tab, again, trying to work with what would normally be a notebook metaphor, we get just the one button on top, and then they would be, if this was a mobile device, they can scroll up and down as needed, and then they have a nice button. So this, on a mobile device, this actually looks pretty good in terms of the spacing. And then buttons along the top for the next, previous, and so on. I looked at some JavaScript libraries to allow for the horizontal swiping, so that would be the logical equivalent of the next, previous, and we'll look at that. And then if they go back to the list, they go back to the previous one they saw. If they click on this button at the top, they go back to what would have been the notebook tabs. And that's a pattern that I've used in a couple of other places. It's low tech. It doesn't do it. It's not a problem. And then the URL that they use does the classic redirect back for the device. So there's a issues URL, and if they're on a desktop, they get the desktop issues. If they're on a tablet, there's tablet issues. If they're on a mobile device, it goes with mobile issues. And each of them has a slightly different look. So the tablet version has some more tabs along the top, or some more graphics along the top. And obviously for the mobile device, I strip everything out. And I'm trying to figure out better ways to do 100% vertical spacing as well as horizontal, but none of this stuff's particularly complicated. The neatest part is just the CSS to allow you to turn on and off a wide and narrow layout. And it's surprising how much you can do with just that. In the list, for example, what I do is, this is the wide version. If you turn it vertically, then I do the text. Actually, it's below the button, and I have thicker rows, if you like, in order to show more content. So each row, each data element in the table has two divs, a narrow and a wide. And depending on which way the device is oriented, one is made visible and the other is made hidden, and it's by class. So it's just by CSS class. Low tech works great. Give it a try. That's good for me.
To show you a demo that I didn't get to show at the end of my presentation yesterday, which is the support for GTK plus 2 plus in VA Smalltalk. So this is an Ubuntu VMware image, and as you can see, this is a motif interface that we're looking at here. But the folks at HPI did a fantastic job of allowing us to run motif and GTK side by side in the same image. So I can open if I would just wipe the whole thing properly, I can open a transcript. I can browse a class right here. Here's the class browser under GTK using the GTK set of widgets. The functionality is currently a little different than our motif browser because it's essentially simplified at the moment. But the biggest problem in developing this support was getting GTK and motif running side by side because they both want to run their own message loop. So we had to actually make a small 2-line change to GTK so we could run the message loop for both motif and GTK in Smalltalk and let them cooperate instead of fight each other. The reason it's important to be able to run them side by side is you need a development environment in order to develop a development environment in GTK. So we develop in motif and display in GTK Plus. This is essentially alpha code at the moment. We have a project team evaluating exactly how we're going to integrate it into the product. And I have no doubt we'll see it in a future release, hopefully soon. That's that one. Now, we'll just close this up. And we'll look at the other presentation, which is Moncello Importer. Yeah. So, there. Okay, so in the past, when we wanted to move code from Fairover Suite to VA Smalltalk, we had a package called VA Package Exporter at Faro, and I presented on that at some previous conferences. It essentially modified the file out format of standard file out format from Faro into the format that VA Smalltalk understood. But that was somewhat undesirable. It was hard to use. It was slow, error-prone. So we wanted to be able to import from MCZ files directly, and we have now written that code. So it creates and updates VA applications. The names are taken from the package name in an MCZ, and the application, which is kind of the equivalent of a package in VW, holds only extension methods. In addition, there are some management methods that are auto-generated during the import. It also creates and updates sub-applications to that main application, which hold the defined classes and their methods, and the names of these are based on the categories in Faro. So I actually use this tool to do the complete 306 port for VA Smalltalk 851. So this is a tested importer. And I will just demo it very quickly. The demo isn't terribly exciting, but it does show it working. So here's the transcript. We haven't hooked the importer into our tools menus yet, so you get to kind of swipe and execute from the transcript. And it opens a file selection dialog, and I'm going to, I have our test MCZs here, so I'm going to select one of them, and it's not going to work, and I know why, so we'll just take a moment to fix it. Live demo is always fun. Okay, so here we go. So in VA Smalltalk, we're very anal about prerequisites. So you have to choose what other applications you depend on. In this case, we only depend on the base kernel code, and you can lock down the results. So I'm going to call this version 1.3 at the end. Okay, and we're very chatty on the transcript while we're doing this. You'll notice that we have several things. You probably didn't notice them as they went by, but there were several methods that didn't compile for various reasons. This is our test MCZ, so they're not supposed to compile. When we get a method that doesn't compile, we turn the method source into a comment, followed by a self-error with a description of the problem as the method source for that method. So the code isn't lost. If you try and run it, you don't know it, but you can go in and change it. So we have some work to do to actually integrate this into our tool chain. That it didn't run in use well, but I think that we're going to try and release this on to Fast Goodies. Thank you.
So this is even after demo that we didn't manage during regular presentation. Well, that's quarter of my screen there. One more. I'm gonna do the whole demo.
You waste nothing, he hasn't started yet. Help him.
I think I'm gonna reboot the machine and maybe at the end. Is it okay? Or would someone else do it?
Someone else.
Just restart.
We all know that we can send inspect to any object, and we get an inspector on that object. And the inspector shows us the physical attributes of the object. I was surprised after when I started Smalltalk 7 years there was no behavioral inspector. So I wrote a naked objects framework called Maui, and you can send Maui to any object, self Maui, and you get a basic view of the object that lets you drag messages to it. And this is done by dragging it in the browser. You click on it, and in fact, it invokes the message. There are only three widget types in Maui. There's an object widget, a message widget, and a message parameter widget, which is for keyword messages. I call it a parameter holder. That's what it's called, parameter holder widget. So each widget or widget type has a context menu as well as a tools menu, and as well as a set of hotkeys. Now, for any object on the tools menu, I've made something called a loaded view. So it looks at the categories that are defined, and then it adds the message. Some of the messages are all in that category, so that you can invoke in that way, and then you can customize very quickly. You can get rid of the ones that you don't want, and if I clone this, and then maybe I want to rename this to say file. Maybe I want to have edit, and notice that this is a different color. So that means this is actually a Maui widget on the Maui widget. So it's using, I'm saying label at put, label F1 put this, and I can put a PNG or any graphic there too to make it look better. But the thing I also want to show is once you drag your messages there, you have a UI that doesn't look that great. Oops, I didn't look that one. So here I get, it says array of 11 regions, so that's an array. So I'm going to go ahead and press E, which is a hotkey for the tools, and I'm going to change that result view to panel. There's some built-in views, panel, word view is just a single word. And then for each message, you can set the result view that you had previously saved as a named prototype, and we'll do that here. If I right-click and press S, I can say remember view as demo. Actually, it says drag a string here or type a string. And because each parameter holder, you can have an evaluator so that you don't have to type the constructor. Because normally you just type the Smalltalk expression. The Smalltalk evaluator is the default. But you can change it to like a string evaluator so that users don't have to type the quotes. So I'm going to take off the quotes because I don't need them. And I've changed the label. This message is actually save prototype at level. And this in the balloon, it says, remember me as a view named a string that can then be applied to any kind of class named that class. And notice that's the comment here. So the balloon help comes from the comment. So then when I click that, it is saved. And if it appears now, I have demo on there, and it shows you what it looks like in the balloon. So one of the things that you may want to do is change this to, okay, so we changed it to panel. Okay, so the preview view lets you hover, this is the view when you hover over it, and the produced view is what it tears off as. So I'm going to make the produced view new. And also, you also notice that this is a clicked invocation strategy. You have three kinds of invocation strategy. You have clicked, auto, and mouse over. Mouse over invokes it when you just go mouse over. Auto is when it gets a changed message or when it opens initially. So now we have the list. So here I have a view that is only laid out vertically. How can I get one that's laid out horizontally? The objects can only contain messages that it can understand or embedded views of itself. So I press in to get another view of it. Okay. Thank you. That went fast.
Thank you.
Everybody hear me? So I'm kind of an
experienced presenter, which is why half the content I had for yesterday I didn't get to show. So I guess I've got 5 minutes for a redemption. So the first thing, so we're going to do the drag and drop. I just wanted to show you what that looked like. Basically, if you're bring up the code completion pop-up, so we start typing for order collection, let's say, and you want to see a definition of that, you just hold down the drag and drop button and then just drag it somewhere outside, anywhere outside the pop-up, it doesn't really matter where. And then the browser will open up centered around wherever you dropped it. If you wanted to see references to order collection, you would do the same drag and drop, but this time hold Control down, you can do the drop. So you'll get this references browser. Same thing happens for methods, let's say something like that, add after, let's try to get the implementers kind of browser. As well as if you held down the Control key, you get these senders and references. And for simple completions, let's just start doing some stuff. All right, so let's take this one. Kind of a references browser. We can do pool dictionaries. So let's try to steal the constants. Brings you to the definition. Also, particular pool variable. Let's try it. Brings you up, highlights the pool variable. I mentioned character literal completions, and actually I didn't get to that. So basically you just start typing in a character literal like this, and then with Control, or whenever you're going to bring up code completion, and you get the ASCII reference chart non-extended version. So this is kind of nice because it's also integrated with the code completion search. So if you want to know something by value, say 32, shows what that would be. You can also do it the other way, and you get to see that. No drag and drop for character literals. The nice thing is that, let's get to, let's say a collection. You can do this, but let's see, let's get bigger. And then let's say I just did this. Let's do a non-printable one. It basically knows if the pool dictionary has been imported or not once you accept the completion. In this case, it wasn't, so it knows to do the full scope. Versus in a workspace, it actually knows that this when it gets evaluated in the workspace, it's part of it. So you can actually do, if you were to do this, just put it like that because it already knows. And I'm just going to go until the clock runs out. So basically, the only other thing I wanted to show, if I get to it, is I said there was a general content assist framework example. This is what it looks like. It's just a text editor, very simple. Basically, as you start typing, basically what you've been seeing, except this has nothing to do with code. This is just text, but this is implemented on the general framework. So it offers everything. It offers about 90% of the features in Code Assist, and it's simply just an extension of that framework. And so this is one of the this is very easy if you want to see how it worked, how you would use it in your own applications. You would just go ahead with very, very few classes, very simple. Very, very few things you need to do to get this integrated into your widget applications. Wow, I made it 5 minutes, sorry. Less.
Just before Christmas, my 11-year-old son came up to me and said, "Dad, can you teach me how to program?" And I'm a proud father. "Yeah, sure, I can teach you how to program." Why do you want to know how to program? He says, "Well, I want to build a game." I said, "Oh, well, what kind of game?" "Well, something like Halo or Call of Duty." And I said, "Those are hard kinds of games to do. Well, how about Minecraft? Okay, you're still thinking 3D games. Those are hard. You have to learn 3-dimensional transformation matrices." "What?" "Okay, never mind. Let's do something simpler." I said, "How about a text game?" "No, that's boring." "Okay, well, well, how about a game that I wrote on my first computer? It's called, I called it Battlestar Galactica. Here I call it Space Wars. So we sat down, I taught him a little bit of small talk. To be honest, most of this is my work, but he supervised, he designed a few things himself. This is Space Wars. So we have a world where there are stars, there are ships. Can you hear the sound there? So I go around shooting things. Right now they don't explode. I threw in a few planets. So you'll see some planets going by here and there. Up in the corner, it's hard to see, but it says remaining ships are 8. It has multiple levels, which are defined as when you finish each level, you add 10 to the number of ships and start again. There's Jupiter again. Of course, we're not getting any interesting ships here. Here's Saturn, there's a ship. Come on, get in there. This is a ready, fire, aim trick because there's an intentional delay. The sound effect we found had a delay while it sort of powered up the lasers. So we programmed in a delay into the shooting. So that's basically it. I'm not going to finish the game here. I will show you very quickly what's involved in this game. We have an application model. We have a view, we have a controller. This is the domain model for our world, which doesn't have terribly many methods. A world contains image objects, which is a small hierarchy, space object, which is a small hierarchy of image objects, which are anything that's displayed with an image, like a planet or a strip, and stars. And that's basically it. The small little package, that game, that's all in Visual Works. No other external languages. There are a few pictures in here, and that's about it.
409. So, I want to talk a little bit about market position. Mainly here in Smalltalk, we're academic and enterprise. Smalltalk is not a mass market product. I think it's really wonderful that Johnny T came to this event because he is from a mass market product language. He uses Ruby and PHP. Well, I'm not saying he uses PHP, but PHP and Perl. These are mass market product languages, and Smalltalk could be one. But it isn't, not because it couldn't be, because we don't aim for that. So market position is something you choose. I created a web page maker called Green Neon. If any of you are familiar with Goran Kramp, he wrote an application called HTTP View 2, which is a simple web page maker. I took that, ripped out his builder, which was outdated, and put on a Seaside canvas from 2.6. This is Squeak Map. It's using Green Neon. Oops. Look at that, that's going to eat my time. Oh, I know, it's Smalltalk.
Hey Chris, welcome to Overbosh.
Thank you, thank you. So this is Squeak Map, it uses Green Neon. It's just a simple page maker, you know. So that just proves that I did actually prove something works. So what I want to do next is make something that you can make a free page, like seasidehosting.st. This is not a real website. This is just a mock-up. So the idea is that the marketing tag is learn the Latin of object-oriented programming. Make a site with Smalltalk. That is to contextualize the purpose of learning Smalltalk to learn object-oriented programming, to make Smalltalk appealing to Ruby on Rails, Objective-C university students. Now, it is the Latin of object-oriented programming because it's the language under languages. And if you ever took Latin, you know this is hic, haec, hoc. Forget it. It's a Latin joke. So I have about 142 movies on YouTube, and so making movies is easy for me. So the idea is somebody comes and they gives a username and a password, boxcar email, then you download an image. So you would go to your image and you would add, okay, that's my username. This is instructed by the movies. Your username, password, and then you would just save. Now that's all they have to do because they're going to upload a package that says hello world. So for all intents and purposes, you give your username and password, download an image, you add something, then you should be able to go to 16r.ca boxcar and see your site. This all works basically, I think I have 2 minutes left. This works because I had an epiphany reading Ramon Leon's blog about how load balancing. You see, the idea is that instead of uploading a whole image the way you do to seasidehosting.st, you just upload a MCZ file which gets injected on startup into a generic image. Because it's not images that you're starting, it's processes, and I really didn't understand that. I didn't really get that. So that's pretty much my idea. It's imagine a Squeak source was turned into a host because you had a generic image and you just fired in MCZs on port. I'm out of time, but the take-home message you should get is that Smalltalk is not a mass market product, not because it couldn't be, it's because that's not where we've been aiming. Thank you.
So you get 5 minutes and everybody else.
This one takes about 8 minutes to go. So. About, I don't know.
Can I make 3 more minutes, please?
I talked about when I said.
You did not talk to me. I'm running this.
Okay,
There's no point starting if I'm not going to be able to finish.
Do it. Go.
It can't be done in 5 minutes. Okay? No, I emailed out months ago and said, how long are these? Because I can.
Martin, you just said you have 8 minutes. If you want to do this, get started, you're wasting time right now.
Okay. All right, I'm Martin McClure. I work on Gemstone internals at VMware. And over the last year, I've been doing a fair amount of programming in numeric areas. And so today I want to talk about subnormal floating point numbers. Why? Why would anyone want to do this for their floating point format? It makes it so much more complicated. Well, we're going to look at why. So I'm going to start with a hypothetical 6-bit floating point number, so we can actually see what's going on. It has a sign bit, 3-bit exponent, 2-bit fraction. The value of this is given by this equation, -1 to the sign bit for positive or negative. You bias the exponent by, in this case, 3, so that half the numbers are less than 1. And you take antissa by taking a 1, and then a fractional part comes from the 2 F bits. That's, of course, if you don't have subnormal floating point numbers. If you do have subnormal floating point numbers, you get this state, where if your exponent is between 1 and 6, you use the equation I just showed you. Otherwise, if the exponent is 0, you have to change your biasing and you change your 1 to 0. So that's the complication I talked about. And what we're wondering about why. I'm not going to talk about what happens if the exponent is 7. Because if there's one thing we can't talk about when we don't have 8 minutes, it's infinity. Okay. So we're going to go back to the simple non-subnormal formula, and in fact, because the negative half is exactly symmetrical with the positive half, we're going to forget about the negative ones and only talk about the positives, which makes it really simple. And what we get is we get a number line like this. This is all of the representable floating point numbers in my 6-bit floating point number. We go from 14 to 8 by 2s, we go from 8 to 4 by 1s, we go from 4 to 2 by halves, and we go from 2 to 1 by fourths. And let's zoom in. See the other half of the numbers that are below 1. We go by 8ths, we go by 16ths, we go by 30 seconds down to 1/8, and there we stop. We've run out of numbers at 1/8. That's problem number 1. We can't reach 0. We don't have a representation for 0. Well, what some vendors did in the 80s, before the standardization of some spacing them by 30 seconds, we spaced them out by 16ths. You're beginning to see why I moved the podium. Okay, so we spaced them out by 16ths, and now we reach 0, and we fill in the gap. So that's a kind of useful thing. Now, the gap doesn't look like a big deal in a 6-bit number. If we take a 64-bit number, then what we get is, you can see these are all representable floating point numbers. And then this is the least representable one. This is a 64-bit floating point number that you don't have a subnormal floats. So there, the least number you can represent is this fraction right here. It's 1 over some incredibly huge number. So it's really, really, really close to 0. So that gap is, in one sense, much, much smaller than it was before. But in another sense, it's much, much bigger than it was before. In fact, at this scale, where these numbers are just really packed close together on the screen, 0 isn't even on the screen. It's somewhere over there. So let's actually back out a little bit and see where it is. Hello? There we go. So it's not between here and the wall. Let's double the distance again. Okay, we're outside the hotel somewhere, but we haven't found it yet. Okay, so we're doubling the distance, actually a little more than doubling the distance every time. Okay, so let's keep going. All right, not there yet. It's not in the parking structure. Okay, it's, let's see. We're probably somewhere in Gulfport about now. I haven't found it yet. Okay, so once again, the more than doubling the distance, extending the number line out. We've reached New Orleans. We're past New Orleans. We're looking at most of the Gulf Coast now. Yeah, it's not in this continent. It's not on Earth. Okay, so let's keep going. Doubling the distance, more than doubling the distance. We've now reached the moon. Okay, we're going to continue doubling the distance. We've now seen the orbit of the moon. Okay, back off, back off. We're heading towards the sun somewhere here. Okay, oh, we've reached the orbit of Venus. Okay, so there's the orbit of Venus. We've now jumped, like doubling again the distance Venus gets us to Mercury. And we can see the orbits of that. We now make a small jump to the sun, about 1.5 times instead of 2. We're at the sun. We take a larger jump, 2.5 times. We're now on the other side of the sun. There's Mercury, Venus, Earth orbits. There's Biloxi. Okay, but we're here at Venus, or here at Mars now. So we back off, take another big jump, 2.5 times. We're at Jupiter. A 2 times jump takes us to Saturn. Another doubling takes us to the planet that I'm going to be careful to pronounce the way the astronomers do, Uranus, because I don't want any Russians to think we found a black hole. And we're going to double one more time, and that gets us to Neptune, which is the last planet out there that has been demoted. And, really, now we double again out beyond Neptune. There really isn't a whole lot. But, okay, occasionally there is something, but we're not searching for spot, we're searching for 0. And, we're outside the orbit of Neptune, we still haven't found 0 yet. So, one more time, Neptune's going to say, look! It's 0! Okay, we found 0. 0 is like 8 times past the orbit of Neptune. So let's review exactly what it was I just showed you. At this scale, where this tiny number is there, and representable numbers are this 1 centimeter apart on this screen, it is 8 times past the orbit of Neptune, where 0 is. So even though that's an incredibly tiny gap, it is in another sense an incredibly huge gap. And once again, the answer is, you take all of these numbers, because they're this dense from here all the way to that on the other side, before they get bigger, you take all of those numbers, you double the spacing, and now they fill in that gap, and they go all the way to 0. And that's what the subnormals do for you. So that's it, thank you, and mind the gap.
All right, so this is a demo that I had in my talk, and I didn't get to it. It's not exactly with the focus of improvements in security stuff, but I think it has a pretty high key factor, and it's kind of neat. I don't know if everyone things that needed a guinea pig in, so SSH seemed like a good, good experimental thing to try first before I, bet my ass on the technology. So, and it turned out to be that in the end, the experiment was actually quite useful and works pretty well. So I just wanted to show what you can do with Visual versus SSH implementation. So on the client side, on the client side, it works similarly to the TLS stuff I showed earlier. It's slightly different. You need keys and things like that. You connect to I have an SSH server around here. So I need to connect as a specific user. So I'm actually reading the key, the SSH client keys from my home directory here. And so once you connect, there are a few messages that we exchange. There was some authentication going on, and we are connected. And once you have the connection established, the SSH protocol provides this facility that you can establish any number of channels for different purposes. So one type of channels are the sessions, that are things that you can use to execute commands on the server or transfer files and things like that. So here we ask for a session from the client connection, and we can say execute ls-l. And there we go. That's the ls that ran on the server, and then you have a string back on the server. Or we can transfer, I have a direct subdirectory here called SSH, a bunch of little files, and so that is just still going. Oh, I make this mistake every time. What happens when I do the response from the server actually close the channel, so I need to actually reopen it before I can. Another type of connection that you can get is a tunnel. And I have a second slide here. So the first part is the same, but you can actually ask for a tunnel instead of a session. And tunnels are things used to have other programs use the channel that the SSH client established to transfer arbitrary bytes over the tunnel. You can open as many tunnels as you want. So here we want to open the tunnel to a local host on the server side at port 555. So I need something sitting on the server side. So I will use a netcap client. I don't know if you know that thing. It's this on port 555, and what do we get? Dump into a file called out. And all right. Wait. So now we can make the tunnel, and we can write here 10,042 century. And close the tunnel. See finished. There should be enough file here. All right, that's it. Server side as well, and you can run sort of like a REPL loop against the server as well.
Thank you, Martin and all the others. So this brings us to our very last session of the day. And I want to start this session. We're sitting back home, thinking what they could present, did it, and shared us their work. So that is the first and most important part of a conference like this that we have great papers and great presentations. And of course, what would be the authors if there were no participants? So thank you to all for showing up. So without having people show up, it wouldn't make sense to have a conference. The next thank you goes to the sponsors. I said at the very beginning, we never had so many, so thank you very much. Their representatives, for most of them still here. Then, thank you to the audio and video personnel that made everything that you could see and hear. So we are looking forward to receive from you guys tapes very soon. That I've been asked a couple of times, when will you make it available? And the only way I can say, soon now. So, and we are looking forward on the quality you provide to us. And thank you for taking records of everything what we did over here. And thank you certainly to you, Gary, for being here and helping out with everything and every question. And thank you to Joy. Where's Joy? Ah, there she is. She was hiding there, for preparing this wonderful conference. Fabian, our new and very enthusiastic student volunteer, had to leave us. He was very sorry, but he had booked a flight today to New York, heading back home after 6 months in the United States. Home means Germany. And I'm pretty sure that he was so impressed what he was seeing here that we will see him again. And so there must be it again just for Fabian, right? So this can't be the last conference. It was so good. I think the mood reminded me of none of the conference we were having in the recent past. It reminded me of the conferences in the mid-90s, where small talk was a burning thing and coming forward. And this is a deja vu for me, where we had the conferences, the user conferences of the different vendors in the 1990s in Anaheim and in San Jose, or the Smaller Solutions conferences at Marriott Marquis in New York. There was this mood of going forward, going to a long future. And this hasn't been, all the recent conferences always had some, yeah, we are the last, but we have to survive some more. This was totally gone, thanks to you, and I think this is reality. Perception is reality anyway, so I perceived it that way, that we are really going forward for a great future for Smalltalk. And I think that the three main sponsors will work to that direction. Monty is nodding, and I'm sure instantiations, John is nodding, and Synchrom is smiling. So, I'll thank you for your support, and I think in this situation it's very important that we all work together. For certainly you are competitors, of course you are, but it's more to win together in a good co-opetition. And I think to do this conference together and the way it's done together is a great, great, great advantage for this conference. And I do not want to forget, where's Alexandre? Alexandre, thank you for representing Faro and Squeak in this group and showing us that. I think they have a strong contribution too to this strong future of Smalltalk. So greet the entire Faro gang, whatever their consortium or whatever they are building right now, wish them good luck. And also the Squeak group, that I think what they have been doing for the community has been very important in the past. Not only the commercial vendors, also these people where a lot of free time and personal energy goes into. Certainly makes fun to do Smalltalk, no doubt about this. All that has led us to a decision which already has been taken, there will be a STIC 2013. And Suzanne is handing out postcards where you can see, I even haven't seen them, but I know that they exist. You just get me one. Thierry, get me one. So it tells you that the next Smalltalk Industry Conference will be in Arizona in June 2013. And what you got now is a voucher for a discount. And you come back that you can, all the details are on there. So it will be even warmer than it is now, we assume. We don't have the precise dates yet. We don't have the precise location yet. But we know the time frame, and we know that we will do it. We don't know whether I will be re-elected, because it's just 2 terms from now.
We re-elected you at lunchtime.
But only for 1 year.
You got the majority vote.
But anyway, I wish you all the best, and I wish a lot of energy in the next 2 days with Camp Smalltalk. I will be there only tomorrow until midday, 2-ish, and thank you all for coming. You want to say something? Of course.
Of course I have to say something. On the card, it says that if you send an email to sfortman@syncom.com with the subject line STIC 2013, before we announce the early bird registration via email to the group, you'll receive a discount coupon. We only used my name because we're changing our registration system next year, and we don't have that set up yet, and we made it a very low priority for this year. So please, if you want a $100 discount off your attendee registration, send me an email if you haven't already. My phone is already buzzing, so I think I have a few in the room already, Chris. And that's all I wanted to say. We're changing the registration system and doing some really neat things for the conference already next year. So we really look forward to seeing all of you there. And bring a friend. It doesn't say it on here, but how are we going to know if you tell someone to send the same information to this email address who wasn't here? But we're not going to check.
We wouldn't have a problem if we have more people being here. Alexandra?
Do we know about Smalltalk Direction for next year?
We are going to have it, yes, and we're going to start promoting that Smalltalk Direction.
Yeah, we will have it. Yeah, we try to grow it, and I think as Ralph said, it was a small start, the smallest part. We were lucky you could make it, and we definitely will have it. And now the call for papers is already out, so go and think about what you can tell the people around you that have research projects. I don't think that the topics will be very different from what this year's call for papers will be. The dates will be different, will be next year, but you can start working immediately on your paper for Smalltalk Direction 2013.
And with regards to Smalltalk Directions, in working with it, we want to thank Ralph Johnson and Roger Whitney and Andrew Black and David West, and I'm leaving one out, I think it's 4, okay, I said 4, I maybe messed up. But all of them, in their daily work, they said, had we known about this or could we start promoting sooner, so many of their students had already published papers. So this way we have 14 months of promotion for this, and we really expect to get more papers published and have more students and really build out the Smalltalk Directions program. So again, Dr. Burwell, thank you for participating. Tell all your friends and students, and we look forward to that being an even larger program next year.
And I'm pretty sure we'll have again, with the experience we had with Fabian, another student volunteer program. So we will continue. If you have any ideas what else we can do on top, let us know. So thank you very much. Thank you, Suzanne, for adding And there's one more thing, Joy.
If I arranged a shuttle for you, you have to be in the bus lobby, which is on the lower level. It's, if